Welcome back, everybody, to the Texas Stars Summer with the Stars series. This is episode 2, and we are joined by another one of the more experienced players on the Texas Stars roster from last season, Toby Petersen. Toby, first of all, how's your summer been? And I hear we're talking to you from one of the most northern continental United States states.
Yes, I'm in Minnesota right now. Got here last week, and just trying to keep busy here with working out and training and everything, and getting ready for next season already.
Now, I know you were in Texas for a little bit longer than most of the other guys. We actually had you for the jersey unveiling. What do you think of the new Texas Stars threads that you and Francis Wattier presented to the general public, and it went viral on the internet very quickly after we released it?
Yeah, they look good. I'm a fan of the jerseys. I think it's a nice design. They're clean looking. They're sharp, and I think that's an important thing in hockey. You don't want to, at least to me, I don't like jerseys that are too busy because they distract from the product on the ice.
Being a Minnesota native, do you like the fact that the Texas Stars are going back to a predominant green color, a la the old Minnesota North Stars?
Yeah, I do. I thought it was a great look when the North Stars had green jersey, green socks, and I liked it better when they had the green hockey pants. They eventually changed to the black pants with the stars down the side, but I was a big fan of the all green look with the yellow stripe up the side of the pants. I thought those were very classic, and of course there's a while there where they didn't look so good, I guess, and that's why they ended up going to all black in Dallas, and no one can really blame them. But now everything's going back to the retro look, and they're a hot commodity again. They're flying off the shelves here in Minnesota. I walk around the city and I see North Star stuff everywhere with that classic green look, and I think it's a great look for the Texas Stars to go back to.
Now, you went to the photo shoot with Wattier, and the two of you guys did a bunch of pictures with the big grins and smiles, and then said, okay, let's do some sort of serious, I don't want to call them Zoolander faces, but sort of let's make our little tough guy face. That's the one we ended up picking. Yours wasn't quite so menacing, but everybody commented that Wattier looked like he wasn't very happy to be there. Very far from the truth, but it was kind of funny just seeing the pictures. It looked like neither of you guys were exactly thrilled.
We were having a good time with it, so it was kind of funny. When I saw the finished product, I was kind of laughing inside myself about the look that Watts was giving the camera, and myself as well. But like you mentioned, he looked particularly menacing. He looked like a hockey player should look, I guess. And if you're the Texas Stars, if you're management, I would imagine you want your players to look a little mean and not look too inviting and too nice out there. So I guess that's the way to go.
Now, tell me a little bit about what's going on in the weather up in Minnesota, because you clearly have had plenty of experience in both Texas and living in Dallas of what Texas weather is in the summertime and in the spring as hockey turns from sort of feeling like hockey weather in Texas to not even close with the real heat. It's kind of an extreme in Minnesota. From what I understand of the times I've been there, it gets pretty cold and snowy in the wintertime, but it's not this cool summer climate usually. It gets pretty warm.
It does. We've the last week and a half have been pretty miserable here in Minnesota with rain and clouds. I mean, we've been home since last Monday, whatever the date was. I think the 3rd or 4th, whatever. And today is the first day I've actually seen the sun consistently out. So it's been a little wild here, but the winters here, fortunately, I haven't been in Minnesota for winter in a while for an entire winter. But I do remember that they are. They're harsh. They're similar to a Texas summer where you just plan around being outside. They're so cold and so windy that you gotta just take shelter as best you can.
Do you think you get spoiled with all the sunshine we see down here in Central Texas?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, the weather down there can't be beat. Of course, the summers are tough. There's tough 4 months where it's so hot that a guy like me with my northern blood doesn't do so. But it's a small price to pay for the rest of the year, the rest of the calendar year being so wonderful.
Now, tell me a little bit about the fact that we talked about it with Wattier last week in our first episode. The fact that with you having kids, obviously you've been playing since you turned pro in 2000, and you've gone through a transformation as an individual and also obviously as a parent from that time until now. What's it like as your kids start to get to an age where they can actually recognize what daddy is doing on the ice and also appreciate what they're seeing, not just being a toddler that really can't quite grasp what's going on out on the ice?
Yeah, there's definitely been a transformation. I mean, I've I guess grown a lot through my professional career. You start to find new priorities that are bigger priorities than just getting to the rink and getting on the ice. There's other things in life that are as important, and and it's also been fun to watch my oldest, Bjorn, who's now 6 years old. It's been fun to watch him and kind of see his appreciation for the game of hockey grow, and see his appreciation for what Daddy's doing and why he's always on the road. See his understanding grow. So that's been a nice a nice part of growing up, I guess, as a professional hockey player.
There was an amazing little moment during a home game. I can't remember exactly when it was during the season. I think it might have been second half of the year, where a whole bunch of Texas Stars players and their kids had a really neat pregame ceremony, and your oldest, along with Watier's, Fortunas, and I believe Travis Morin's son, all out in their dad's jersey numbers and Texas Stars colors with the name bars, sort of involved in that. Now, all the dads weren't in the starting lineup, but was it pretty cool to see all the boys out there lined up together?
Yeah, it was really cool. They definitely had a lot of fun. They were really enjoying their time out there. They thought they were, the big shots, picture taken and everything. And I know, Willie, Coach Desjardins' son, Willie's son was out there. I remember Elvis's son was out there as well. So it was, it was a good event for them, and it was a lot of fun as a dad to do that, and then try to shift gears quickly and get ready for the game too. Was also an experience for me.
You segue beautifully to your head coach, Willie Desjardins. It's twofold, this question. One is, he was the AHL Coach of the Year, and I'm sure that you can reflect on his job and why he deserved that. But also, maybe for you, a little difference to have a coach who, although you guys have a bit of an age gap, you both have sons who aren't that far apart. Is that sort of a different relationship, being one of the leaders of the team and kind of having some common ground with your coach, whereas back when you were at Colorado College or early days in the Penguins organization, I would imagine you're a little bit younger than your coaches.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm not very. I guess I look at it as I'm not necessarily Willie's peer as far as age goes, and with all due respect to Willie, you laugh at that.
I'll laugh at that.
Hopefully he's having a good laugh at that. But yeah, as he does have children, and I think he can relate quite well to what Maxie and I and Travis and the other Francis are going through as dads with kids back home and entering grade school and things like that. I think he has a pretty good grasp for it, and it's nice to have a coach who's understanding of that and willing to help out and accommodate the best he can so that we can succeed as hockey players, but also as parents. And he understands that to get the most out of us on the ice. I think he realizes that it's gonna when he can help us out with the home life, it's gonna help us out on the ice. And I think he has a good grasp on that, and that helps us out.
One of the things that he was really I've been reading a bunch of stuff about Willie, because obviously he's one of the candidates for the Dallas Stars coaching vacancy, and everybody's been talking about how, and I read a phenomenal letter that one of his former Medicine Hat Tigers players wrote saying that he should be the next Vancouver Canucks head coach. But the neat part about it is that if you took out Medicine Hat, you could almost replace Texas Stars with everything that this guy wrote in his letter, because he talked about how he really wanted to establish a leadership that was really taking charge of the team, that taking the accountability. This is our team, but also making sure that there was representation from all the maybe minor friendships, or even if you want to go as far as say cliques of the team are there, so that nobody feels like they're left out from the decision-making process, etc. Do you feel as though he really seems to get a really constructive way to bring the leaders of the team together so that it's their team?
Absolutely. Before training camp really got very deep, he already was holding meetings and having guys in to kind of get a structure for our team and what we were looking for the season and what our goals were, and different ways that we could achieve those goals. And I think he's very intelligent. He has a lot of experience with running a team, with coaching a team, and by having everyone represented in the meetings and throughout the season, it's a good way to keep the team united and not let any divisions pop up within the team. And I think that's a good way to keep us strong throughout the season. And he's been incredibly consistent from everything I've read and everything I've seen with his teams. He's been consistent with how he runs them and what he expects from his players. And obviously from year to year that's going to change, or so certain things will change, I should say, as far as systems and what power plays are running. And a lot of that will depend on personnel and what guys are able to do on the ice. But stuff in the locker room seems like it hasn't changed at all, and that's been with him, in Dallas, where he was an assistant, obviously in Texas, where he's the head coach, and he demands a lot from his players. The players are very willing to give it to him because there's a mutual respect between the players and the coaching.
I know that you and Francis were both obviously involved in our jersey unveiling, and a lot of talk about you guys under contract for next year. We might see you guys for the Texas Stars, but to mention the Dallas Stars would be doing both you and Francis an injustice. He mentioned last week, Wattier did, about Jim Nill, new general manager. There's going to be a new coach, a new assistant coach, along with Kurt Frazier and Mike Valley in the coaching staff up in Dallas. Do you think it gives you, this is going on your 14th year in pro hockey, do you think this gives you another look at maybe putting in a few more Dallas Stars games and maybe earning more at the NHL level?
Potentially. It's always something you're shooting for. I'm not ruling out the possibility of playing again up in Dallas, but, at the same time, as you mentioned, it's my 14th year, and I know that Dallas is, undergoing a bit of a restructuring or a bit of a youth movement, obviously, with having missed the playoffs. Things had to change, and it's all totally understandable. And at the same time, though, like you mentioned, Francis and I, and some of the older guys in the organization are still hoping to keep our foot in the door, I guess, and get another look and show that we can still contribute up there.
Now, you can't hit, and I know you and I joked about this several times this year, 900 pro games, 500 AHL, 398 NHL, which is a side joke, but you can't hit 1,000 pro and 600 AHL this year. You'd have to play 78 games, and there's only 76 games at the AHL level, unless you happen to get a bunch of scheduling things where you're playing NHL and AHL games. Let's not cross that bridge right now, but I have a feeling that you don't have to worry about those expensive milestones coming up.
No, I don't think I will. I think I want to be safe this year. That would require another couple of years, and we'll see what happens after this. But, I'm just taking this one step at a time, just looking forward to this upcoming training camp, and we'll go from there. But, I guess it's one of those close to no cigar situations, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
It's been a long time for you, from the days that you played in the World Juniors for Team USA. You played at Colorado College up in the Springs. What's it like now being one of the older players on the team and being counted on to really lead on and off the ice, not just go out there and do your job from a player's perspective, but having to really have a whole nother responsibility out on with the team on both aspects?
I personally embrace it. I love the the role that I have with this team, and I like the leadership role. It is obviously more work. It's like I mentioned before, with having children, having a wife, having a bunch of kids at home, where you can't just sit there and focus on one thing, and that's getting to the gym and getting on the ice and going and playing hockey. There are other things in life you have to take care of, and certainly want to take care of. And I kind of view being a leader in the organization or being a leader on this team as similar to that, where it's one extra step or it's one extra responsibility for me, but it's something I really enjoy doing, and I like watching guys grow. And I'm not going to obviously take credit for that, but you take a small piece of credit from watching a player develop through the season and thinking that in some way you might have had a hand in that.
Now, I'm looking at your stats line in front of you. You played first for the Iowa Stars in 2005-06. Now, we're not using the old term, but you've spent a lot of time in the Stars organization, many years with Dallas, now going on possibly your second year with the Texas Stars, although technically it would be your third because you did play one game back in the 10-11 season down here in Cedar Park. But aside from that, just the amount of time you've been wearing Stars colors, is it more than just a job when you play that long in one organization?
It absolutely is. I have a lot of loyalty to this organization, and I'm watching even the current drafts. I'm watching them very closely because I'm very tied up in what they're doing. It's not like I'm not thinking, well, whoever they draft probably won't be there for a couple of years, so what do I care? I'm looking at, I really want this organization to do well. I'm really pulling for everyone in the organization to do well, and it's, I think that's because of how long I've been here and how much I've seen guys come through, or how many guys I've seen come through, and it's been a pleasure to be part of this organization for so long. And I look forward to being part for next year, and we'll see what happens after that, as I said.
I know you don't want to look too far ahead, but Francis said last week that he wants to get into coaching about 10 years from now. See, he still has the playing bug. There's no doubt about that. Could we see you in a post-playing role in either on the bench or doing hockey operations or scouting of some kind? Would hockey be in the future of your career?
I'm definitely not ruling it out. I mean, I don't want to, cross that bridge till we get there. I'm like Francis, where I'm a player right now, and that's all I'm really focusing on. That's all I'm worrying about. But it's also impossible not to think about it because you get asked, 2 or 3 times a week, well, what are you going to do after hockey? By random people, various people throughout the community who haven't seen me in years, they always ask, what are you going to do when hockey's done? So obviously you give it some thought, and that is something, that I've definitely considered and something I think that I could excel in. But, right now I'm just focusing on, playing hockey and being the best player I can be.
I want to go back to the Calder Cup playoffs because obviously it's still simmering in my mind. I mentioned it last week. I'm sure that you're still not over it, as most players with any kind of ambition and drive wouldn't be. You see the Grand Rapids Griffins, a team that we face, when I say we, the Texas Stars, I just sort of on the outskirts of that, but played 4 times, split the games, heck of a series. You know how good they were, up 3-0 in the best of 7 Calder Cup finals. You start to go, boy, we played them pretty tough. We'd like to have another crack at that.
Yeah, they're having quite a playoff run here, and they've got a very talented team, obviously. We hung with them pretty well, and I think it goes to show that on any given night anyone can win, but also it's an important attribute of a team to be able to peak at the right time and excel to a higher level at the right time, and that's what Grand Rapids has done. After losing that series to Oak City, I was convinced Oak City was going to at least make it to the Calder Cup finals. I didn't necessarily know if they were going to win or not, but I thought they would make it there. So I know that for them not to, maybe that's based on how well they were playing and how they took care of us. Maybe I'm giving us too much credit, but I don't think so. So I think what that shows, though, is that Grand Rapids is a heck of a team, and they're playing very well right now.
Do you feel that Wattier said last week that he wanted to he thought that the Texas Stars were going to make the conference finals, and then from there it's a roll of the dice because you're talking about 4 really great teams that make it that far. Was that sort of your outlook too? Was you were thinking probably a little farther than just the Oklahoma City Barons?
Yeah, we were eliminated in the second round, and anyone who tells you they weren't disappointed by that, it must not have been in the same locker room as I was in, because it was definitely disappointing to lose in the second round. And Oak City played very well. We got to tip our hats to them. But at the same time, going in, we were playing some good hockey, and we knew we had a good team, and I think we all thought we were going to make it further in the second round. So it's disappointing, but I guess the silver lining is that'll hopefully motivate us and drive us to work our butts off this summer and get back for more next year.
How hurt and banged up was the team? Because I've heard lots of stuff about it, and I know what some of the guys were playing through. But was it as guys just absolutely battling through piles of injuries all up and down the lineup?
Yeah, that's kind of a two-sided question. On the one hand, there were a lot of guys that were very banged up. Obviously at this time of the year, you just play through it. You don't rest and wait for tomorrow and hope you get better, because there may not be a tomorrow if these guys aren't out there playing. But at the same time, I think that probably is the case with pretty much every team in the league. When you get to this part of the season, every team's going to sit there and they'd be able to say, well, we're pretty banged up. And that's just a result of playing so much hockey down the stretch and playing so hard to try to get in the playoffs and try to have success in the playoffs. That's what guys do. They're willing to sacrifice. So I think every team probably has the same thing going on.
There's way more ice availability, I'm guessing, in Minnesota during the summertime than it is in Austin, Texas. How long do you take off before you start to hit the ice again?
I usually take 4 to 6 weeks. Depends on what's going on. But, in Minnesota, there's a lot of ice, and a lot of my buddies are actually still playing, even though they're old men. But they're still playing open hockey and stuff. And, I like to get out there with them once in a while, just to keep the edges sharp and keep the hands loose, I guess you'd say. And then once late July, early August hits, I step on the ice and do a lot more, up-tempo stuff with more of the professional guys or college guys, and try to really gear up for camp starting in early September.
Got to ask you one last thing. There was a real push between you, the other leaders, and the coaching staff to hit the weights after practice, after games this year with this team consistently throughout the year. Did that make a difference for you personally as the end of the season? And how do you feel now compared to other years where, obviously you must have worked hard for a long time to make the NHL the way you did, but do you think there was a payoff there from the time and commitment in the gym off the ice that this whole team did?
I think there was. It was, that goes to DJ Mario and it goes to JJ McQueen, who's up, most up in Dallas. But they're watching over us and they're giving us programs to, to run throughout the season to make sure that we're not losing the benefits that we gain throughout the summer by just, by sitting idly by in the gym. So that they're trying to keep us going and keep us doing things. And after the games, I think the biggest thought was that once we knew we were going to be in the playoffs, it was important to keep going in the gym all the way down to the wire, all the way down to the end of the regular season and beyond, because we knew that once the playoffs hit, you don't get saved by, the buzzer at the end of the 5-minute overtime where they say, all right, now it's time for a shootout to settle this game. And in playoffs, obviously, the overtimes can go all night, like it did the Stanley Cup game last night with 3 overtimes. So, you have to be in shape. You got to be prepared to play beyond 65 minutes. And I think that's something that we were trying to stress as leaders was, let's keep going. We got to, even though the game's over and we're all pretty tired and we got to travel, let's get in there and just do a few things to keep the legs, even more fatigued and teach your body what it's going to feel like once the playoffs start.
I know you put a ton of work in. You're a consummate pro, and your dedication and just awareness of your body is incredible. But is there anything that you do off season, especially now when you're in your rest period, any guilty pleasure or cheat that you wouldn't do during the season that you kind of succumb to during the first couple months before you have to ramp up your off-season training?
Not really. I'm pretty straight laced. I'm going to a Twins game tonight with my 2 boys. So, obviously you get a little more time. It's not necessarily something I wouldn't do during the season, but it's just you get a lot more time to go around the community and do different things and activities like that. Go to the swimming pools and things like that. So I guess that would be it. Just, but it's not necessarily a guilty pleasure. It's just something that I'm allowed to do because I have more time to do it.
Toby, always a pleasure. We really appreciate your time today, and obviously we're hoping that you might crack the Dallas Stars lineup once again, but definitely looking forward to seeing you in Cedar Park maybe around the end of September, early October.
Sounds good. I appreciate it. Thanks.
That's Toby Petersen joining us for Episode 2 of Summer with the Stars, and we will be back with more next week. Thanks for joining us.